My fiancée slept with her boss a week before our weddings, so I exposed their affair to everyone and watched her perfect life collapse. Publicly, I'm a 29-year-old guy. And up until a few months ago, I genuinely thought I had it all figured out. The woman I loved dearly had just been promoted at her marketing firm, and we were a week away from saying I do. My life felt like one of those perfect montages you see in romantic movies: laughter over cake tastings, endless texts about table settings, and late nights planning our future together. I'd wake up to her humming in the kitchen, hair tied up, tapping away on her laptop while sipping coffee. She looked so focused, so ambitious, it made me proud. I used to tell my friends, she's the most driven woman I've ever met. And I meant it. We had booked the venue, sent out invitations, and our families couldn't stop gushing about how perfect we were for each other. But behind all that joy, something small began to shift quietly, like a hairline crack in glass. Emily started working later than usual. At first, I told myself it was because of her new role. Promotions came with pressure. Still, I noticed the way she guarded her phone, angling the screen away when messages popped up. Once, I asked, "Everything okay?" And she smiled too quickly. "Yeah, just work stuff. You know how it is?" I wanted to believe her. I did believe her. After all, we were getting married. Trust was supposed to be the foundation, right? So I ignored that sinking feeling that would creep up every time her phone buzzed after midnight. In those moments, I'd convince myself it was just wedding stress, that she was overwhelmed and I was overthinking. But deep down, somewhere I didn't want to look. A voice whispered that something wasn't right. And as it turns out, that voice was about to be right in the worst possible way. The week before our wedding, I started to notice how different Emily felt, not in the way she looked or talked, but in the energy between us. She was there physically, but emotionally. It was like she'd stepped behind a glass wall I couldn't see through. Anymore, she snapped at small things, me forgetting to pick up her dry cleaning, or asking which playlist she wanted for the reception. Her tone wasn't cruel, but it was sharp enough to sting. I remember one night, I came home early with her favorite takeout, thinking I'd surprise her. She didn't even smile. "You should have texted," she said, eyes glued to her laptop. I already ate. The food went cold on the table between us. The silence louder than any argument could have been. Her late nights at work became constant. "Deadlines," she'd say, or "Nathan's pushing us hard before the quarter ends." Nathan, her boss? I didn't think much of him, apart from the fact that he seemed overly friendly at the office party months earlier. But when she mentioned his name, I felt that quiet ache in my chest again, the one I kept trying to drown with logic. One night, while we were watching TV, her phone lit up, a text Nathan worked. She saw me glance at it and immediately flipped her phone over. "Just work stuff," she said, her smile forced, her voice light to light. I nodded, pretending to believe her. But later that night, while she slept beside me, I couldn't help staring at her phone on the nightstand. Every vibration felt like a pulse of something dying between us. Trust, peace, maybe both. I wanted to, but I still had faith in her. At least, I thought I did, and that faith was about to start cracking wide open. The more I tried to shake off my doubts, the heavier they clung to me. Every small inconsistency became a whisper I couldn't ignore. Emily's laughter on the phone that stopped the second I walked in, the faint scent of a different cologne on her clothes when she came home late, the way she started sleeping with her phone under her pillow, something she'd never done before. I told myself I was being paranoid, that I was turning into one of those insecure fiancés you read about online. But there's a difference between paranoia and instinct, and mine, it was screaming. A few days later, we were supposed to spend the weekend at my parents' house. She canceled last minute, claiming her team had a last-minute presentation due Monday. "It's just one weekend, babe. Don't make it a big deal," she said, rolling her eyes when I looked disappointed. Her words stung more than I let on. That night, I sat with my best friend Ryan, over a couple of beers. He's known me since high school, the kind of guy who reads your silence better than your words. "You've been off," he said. I told him everything. The late nights, the hidden phone, the strange tension. He frowned, thoughtful. "Look, man, don't accuse her, but don't ignore your gut either. Just watch." Quietly. So I did. I watched the way she'd smile at her phone, but never tell me why. how she'd claim she was too tired to talk, then stay up texting. One evening, while folding laundry, I found a hotel receipt tucked in her blazer pocket. The date matched the weekend she canceled on me. The hotel was downtown, nowhere near her office. My hands trembled as I held it. My mind tried to find innocent reasons. Business meeting, work conference, anything, but every excuse felt thinner than the paper I was holding. That was the moment. I stopped doubting myself and started doubting her. After finding that hotel receipt, I couldn't sleep. I kept staring at it under the lamplight like it might suddenly explain itself. My heart wanted to believe it was nothing, but my mind had already started connecting the dots. Something inside me shifted that night. Trust turned into quiet observation. Love into suspicion. I started paying attention to the details I'd ignored before. The small lies she told so easily. We worked late at the office, even when her company's security system logged. Employees out by 8 p.m., the faint lipstick stain on her coffee cup that wasn't her shade. The perfume in her car, not hers, too floral, too strong. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I synced her tablet with our shared email under the pretext of updating our wedding RSVPs. It wasn't hard. She'd already saved her login info. That's how I found them, the emails, hidden in a folder labeled drafts. She wasn't sending them, just saving them. Maybe she thought that made it safer. The messages weren't professional. I can't stop thinking about last night. You make me feel alive again, signed off with E. Some of them included photos, nothing explicit, but intimate enough to make my chest tighten. The recipient, Nathan, her boss. I remember sitting there, the glow of the tablet washing over my face, feeling like the floor had given way. Everything I'd built my future around, every smile, every promise suddenly felt like a script she'd been rehearsing with someone else. I could hear her in the shower then, humming softly, the same tune she'd always hum while getting ready for work. It used to make me smile. Now, it just made my stomach turn. I closed the tablet carefully, pretending nothing had changed, because as much as I wanted to scream or confront her, a darker thought crept in. I didn't want an argument. I wanted proof. 2 nights later, I got my proof. I wish I could say it came easily, but what I saw burned itself into my memory in a way I'll never forget. Emily had told me she was meeting her maid of honor to go over last-minute wedding details. Her voice sounded normal, maybe too normal when she said it. I smiled, kissed her goodbye, and watched her drive off. The second she turned the corner, I grabbed my keys and followed. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely fit the key into the ignition. I kept a safe distance, my headlights off, my heart pounding like a drum in my throat. She drove downtown, not toward her friend's neighborhood, but toward that same hotel from the receipt. My chest went tight when she pulled into the parking lot. I parked across the street, watching through the windshield as she stepped out of her car. Then I saw him, Nathan, her boss, waiting by the entrance, grinning like he'd just won something that didn't belong to him. She ran to him. He pulled her close, kissed her, and they disappeared inside. It felt like watching someone die, except it was me. My whole body went numb. My brain couldn't process it. I just sat there, gripping the steering wheel, my vision blurring with tears. A part of me wanted to storm inside, to tear everything apart, to scream at both of them. But another part, the colder part, whispered, "Not yet." So I waited. When they left, an hour later, laughing, holding hands, I lifted my phone and took the photos. Every frame felt like a nail sealing the coffin of what I thought was love. Driving home, I didn't cry anymore. I didn't shout. I just stared ahead, my knuckles white around the steering wheel. Because that night, something inside me broke, and something else. Woke up the next morning, I did something no sane person would expect. I acted like nothing happened. Emily came home around 8 a.m., wearing the same clothes she left in. Her hair was messy, her eyes tired, but she smiled the second she saw me. "Hey, babe. Sorry I crashed at Hannah's. We were up all night with decorations." Her lie rolled off her tongue so easily it made my stomach twist. I smiled back. "No worries," I said, pouring her coffee the way she liked it. 2 sugars, no cream. Her eyes softened with relief, maybe guilt. I didn't care. In that moment, I realized I wasn't going to confront her. I was going to destroy her. Quietly, completely. Over the next few days, I became the perfect fiancé. I helped finalize the seating chart, called vendors, and even took her dress to the tailor. Every time she looked at me, guilt flickered behind her smile. She probably thought I was clueless. That thought alone kept me calm. I started documenting everything, screenshots of her emails, photos from the hotel, even timestamps from her text logs. Ryan was the only one who knew. When I told him what I was planning, he stared at me like I'd lost my mind. "You're still marrying her?" he asked. I nodded. "Yeah, but she won't be walking away with a happy ending." I wasn't going to ruin myself with a confrontation in private. I wanted her to feel the weight of what she did publicly. Every guest, every family member, every friend who ever called us the perfect couple. So I kept smiling, kept holding her hand, kept pretending that love hadn't curdled into quiet fury. Because the wedding wasn't canceled. It was the stage. The night before the wedding felt almost cinematic, the kind of stillness that happens right before a storm tears everything apart. Family and friends were already in town. Laughter echoed through the house, champagne bottles popped, and everyone kept saying how perfect Emily and I looked together. If only they knew. I watched her float through the evening, all smiles and charm. She hugged my mom, toasted with my friends, even sat on my lap whispering, "Can you believe we're getting married tomorrow?" I almost laughed. The woman who betrayed me was glowing in front of everyone, so confident in her lies that it almost fascinated me when she went upstairs to take a call. Probably Nathan. I stayed behind, silent. My phone buzzed. Ryan had texted, "You sure about tomorrow?" I stared at his message for a long second before replying, "Absolutely." By then, everything was ready. The slideshow was stored on a flash drive labeled Memories of Us. I had tested it 3 times to make sure it worked perfectly. On the surface, it looked like a sweet wedding video. Childhood photos, engagement clips, travel moments. But halfway through, the real footage would roll. Her hotel visits, her emails, her texts. Every detail she thought I didn't know when Emily came back downstairs. She curled up next to me, resting her head on my shoulder. Her perfume, the same one she probably wore to see him, filled the air. "Tomorrow's going to be magical," she whispered. I nodded, forcing a smile. "Yeah," I said quietly. "It's going to be unforgettable." Later that night, as she slept beside me, I stared at the ceiling and realized something strange. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't sad. I was calm to calm, like a man who'd already buried his love and was now preparing for the funeral. The morning of the wedding felt unreal. Sunlight poured through the curtains. Birds chirped outside like the world had no idea what was about to happen. I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting my tie, staring at a version of myself I barely recognized. Calm, hollow, rehearsed. A man about to marry the woman who'd already betrayed him. Downstairs, the house buzzed with excitement. Emily looked radiant in her gown, laughing with her bridesmaids. When our eyes met, she gave me a shy smile. That same smile that used to melt me. Now, it just reminded me of how easily she could lie. My mother hugged me teary-eyed, whispering, "You chose well, son." I hugged her back, my throat tightening. She didn't deserve to know the truth. Not yet at the venue. Everything was perfect. The flowers, the music, the crowd. When Emily walked down the aisle, the room seemed to hold its breath. Everyone turned to admire her beauty, her grace. I forced myself to look at her, memorizing every detail. Because this was the last moment she'd ever stand above me. We exchanged vows, and I almost laughed at the irony of hearing her promise forever. I kissed her, the cameras flashed, and applause erupted. On the outside, we looked like a dream. On the inside, I was counting down the minutes. At the reception, after the speeches and dancing, Emily squeezed my hand. "Ready for our surprise video?" she asked playfully. "You made one too, didn't you?" I smiled. "Yeah, I did." As the lights dimmed and the projector flickered to life, I caught Ryan's eye across the room. He gave a slow nod. My heart beat once, twice, and then steadied. The screen filled with our smiling faces. The crowd cooed. Emily beamed proudly beside me, and right then I whispered under my breath, "Let's begin." The first minute of the video was pure perfection. Childhood photos, engagement clips, laughter, vacations. Everyone smiled, clapped, even wiped away tears. Emily leaned her head on my shoulder, whispering, "You're the sweetest man alive." I almost smiled, almost dot. A faint static filled the speakers. The slideshow flickered, and shifted. On screen appeared a photo of Emily walking into the downtown hotel. The next slide, Nathan's hand on her waist. Then, a time-stamped receipt. A pause rippled through the room. Confused murmurs spread. I could feel Emily tense beside me. What's happening? She stammered, glancing at me. The video continued. Screenshots of her emails. Text messages. I can't stop thinking about last night. You make me feel alive. Gasps filled the room. Someone dropped their drink. Her father's face turned pale. My mother covered her mouth in shock. Emily shot to her feet, her voice trembling. Turn it off. Turn it off now. But no one moved. The DJ looked frozen. Ryan stood at the back, arms crossed, eyes fixed on her dot. Then came the final frame. A photo of Emily and Nathan kissing in the hotel parking lot. Date stamped exactly 1 week before the wedding. The words, "Till truth do us part," appeared beneath it. Silence. Thick, suffocating silence. Emily's knees buckled as the room erupted. Shouts, gasps, phones, snapping pictures. Nathan's wife, who was sitting near the back, stormed out in tears. Emily's bridesmaids whispered among themselves, their faces pale. I stood up slowly, straightened my jacket, and looked at her. She stared back, her eyes wide, lips trembling, her perfect world collapsing in front of everyone she'd fooled. I leaned close enough for only her to hear and said quietly, "Congratulations. Emily, you finally got the attention you wanted." Then I walked out, leaving her surrounded by the wreckage of her own making. The moment I stepped outside the venue, the air hit me like cold water. Behind me, chaos roared, shouting, crying, the heavy thud of someone knocking over a chair. But I didn't turn back. I just kept walking toward the parking lot, each step lighter than the last. For the first time in months, I felt free. My phone buzzed nonstop. Calls from friends, family, even Emily. I ignored them all. By the time I reached my car, Ryan caught up to me, breathless. "Man, you actually did it," he said, half shocked, half proud. I just nodded. It was the only way she'd understand what she destroyed. Later that night, the video was everywhere. Someone had filmed the entire scene, and within hours, it was circulating on social media. Wedding scandal exposed, bride caught cheating at ceremony. The captions were brutal. My phone filled with messages from strangers, some calling me a legend, others telling me I went too far. But I didn't care. It wasn't revenge for fame. It was truth, raw and undeniable. Asterisk, by the next morning, Emily's world had imploded. Her parents kicked her out of their house, humiliated and furious. Nathan's wife filed for divorce and leaked his company emails to HR. Within days, he was fired. Emily lost her job to corporate, didn't like scandals. She tried to call me again. I didn't answer. She sent a long message, full of apologies and excuses. It was a mistake. I was confused. I didn't mean to hurt you. I deleted it without reading to the end. In a way, I didn't need to. Her actions had already spoken louder than any apology could. The satisfaction didn't come from watching her fall. It came from knowing she could never rewrite the story again. For once, the truth had the final word. In the days that followed, silence became my closest companion. The adrenaline of the exposure faded, and what replaced it was something heavier, a hollow ache that even victory couldn't fill. I'd spent months loving her, planning a life only to end it in flames. And though she deserved the truth, I couldn't shake the image of her face when the video played. Not the guilt, not the tears, but the disbelief that I was capable of that kind of retaliation. Asterisk. The house felt emptier than ever. Her dress still hung in the closet. Half our wedding gifts sat unopened in the living room. Every corner of the house whispered a memory, her laugh while cooking, her perfume clinging to the couch, her handwriting on sticky notes that once said, "Can't wait to marry you." I used to replay her lies in my head, but now it was her absence that echoed louder. People online called me a hero, a legend of revenge. Friends sent memes, told me she got what she deserved. But none of them saw me at 3 a.m., sitting in the dark, staring at the empty side of the bed. They didn't see how broken I felt, how revenge didn't heal the wound, it just sealed it shut before it could breathe. Ryan checked on me one night. "You okay, man?" he asked quietly. I shrugged. "I should be." He sighed. "You will be, but right now, let yourself feel it. You lost something real, even if she didn't." That hit hard, because he was right. I hadn't just lost Emily, I'd lost the version of myself that believed love could conquer everything, and as much as I wanted to move on, I realized I wasn't there yet, not until I faced the part of me that still wished it. Hadn't come to this? Months passed before I felt like myself again. The noise faded, the gossip, the online comments, the whispers from people who only knew my story in fragments. Life slowly went back to normal, though it didn't feel the same. It was quieter, emptier, but in that silence, something new started to grow. Peace. I focused on rebuilding. Therapy helped. At first I resisted, but my therapist said something that stuck with me. Revenge gives closure to the wound, but healing gives peace to the soul. I realized I'd gotten closure the day I walked out of that wedding hall, but peace, that was still a work in progress. Emily tried reaching out one last time, an email, long and desperate. She said she couldn't find work, that her reputation was ruined, that she missed me. I read it once, then hit delete. There was a time when I would have felt sorry for her. Not anymore. Actions have consequences, and hers were finally hers to carry. Nathan's life fell apart too. Divorced, unemployed, exposed. It was poetic justice. The kind that doesn't need screaming or gloating, just quiet inevitability. As for me, I started finding joy in small things again. Morning runs, cooking, meeting old friends. My mother said I looked lighter, calmer. Maybe I was. Pain has a way of carving you open, but once it's done, you see the world with sharper clarity. One night, while journaling, I wrote a line that felt like my story's ending. She wanted a promotion. I gave her a spotlight she never escaped. It wasn't pride that made me write it, it was acceptance. I'd stopped needing to prove anything to her, or to anyone, because the real revenge wasn't public humiliation. It was walking away and never looking back.